Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to the Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, the 25th of March, live on YouTube. We've got a busy show tonight, including lots of news stories, especially from the United States of America as well. A couple of big stories out in America over the last few days. One pretty nasty, in fact, that we'll cover in a bit. I'm joined by Labour Party supporter Zach Chambers around all the latest news today. Hello.
Hello, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Now, we have got lots of news to talk about. I'm going to start off, though, with the big news over the last few days, or the last 24, 48 hours, whatever it's been. There has been a tornado in Mississippi. Unfortunately, I can confirm to you guys now, 24 people have been killed. Devastation has been affected to the US state. It was Friday night's tornado, more thought to be trapped under the rubble of destroyed buildings. The twister caused devastation in several rural towns, tearing down trees and even power lines. Several southern states are also braced for more powerful storms. It comes as a storm system which ripped through Mississippi, produced a tornado that has caused catastrophic damage to communities across the state. The biggest twister obliterated dozens of buildings in several small towns, flipping cars on their sides and toppling power lines. Well, if we're asking a question of this being one of the worst tornadoes for a long time in America, it's certainly a pretty horrifying event. We had an earthquake a few weeks ago, or about a month or so ago, which ripped through parts of Africa, parts of Syria, Turkey. I have to say, Zach, for Mississippi, for America again, another quite simply devastating storm.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, another horrible storm that's happened in this time in Mississippi. I mean, it's not the first time that there's been a weather-related event in Mississippi. We've had it before. Several, they've had all sorts of weather over the last few months: thunderstorms, lightning, rain, now a tornado as well. And it's a devastating event that's happened in Mississippi. It happened overnight whilst everyone was sleeping. There was tornado warnings that was sort of happened, like, you know, in the early hours of the morning that sort of was alerted to everybody. But yeah, I mean, it's a devastating event that's happened that's killed more than 20 people and destroyed many people's homes. Another weather event, unfortunately, we're sort of getting to that season now where all the nasty weather happens, and this is one of them. Mississippi, you can see all the devastation on the ground as well. Lots of people out there that fortunately have lost their home and are going to be homeless. And yeah, I mean, it's just a horrible event that's happening. I mean, look and see the areas there that have sort of been affected all over Mississippi as well. It's a really devastating, earthquake that's just happened in the region as well. And it's really, look, you can see all the damage there. There's one home as well, really badly damaged. And yeah, it's a horrible weather event that's happened. Certainly there as well. I mean, it's not something that we want to see, definitely, at all. I mean, that's the site of one home there that's just ruined, totally and utterly ruined, really, to be fair. I mean, it's not very good at all to see that being completely demolished and everything like that. But yeah, I suppose it's worse that it happened early hours in the morning, as you can see another bit of death and destruction there pretty much as well. Debris has been flown up everywhere, a house ripped apart as well. It's a sad state of affairs in Mississippi. 24 killed and devastation that has ripped across Mississippi as well. So yeah, Mississippi, like I said, has been subject to lots of horrible, events. Really, to be honest, as well, that over the last few months and years as well. And this is just another set that's happened to them. They've had all sorts of winter storms recently. That's cut the power grid, and now this tornado is going to certainly not help the situation there as well. So obviously, thoughts and prayers to everyone that has been affected by this horrible tornado, and obviously those that have lost their lives as well. I mean, it's just what a way for your life to be ruined like that by some devastating and unwanted tornado that's just ripped through Mississippi and caused such destruction across the state as well. It's really a horrible sight to see.
24 dead is just a horrible number. I wish none of them were dead, but 24 lives lost, it's just horrible. I think we can all say that this is the second most powerful weather event to hit America in, well, not even 6 months, really. We had obviously Hurricane Ian last year that destroyed parts of Florida. Mississippi now get hit with a tornado. Wow. Honestly, it is pretty horrifying to watch, if you ask me. People literally asleep, literally not knowing the tragedy of what was about to come. And yeah, unfortunately, 24 dead. It's just horrible. All I can say is my thoughts with all those who've lost loved ones in that. So pretty horrible event. But moving on now to another United States news story now, which has been in the news a lot in the UK press at the moment, is the interview that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis did with Talk TV's host Piers Morgan. Yes, Piers Morgan Uncensored is on Talk TV. Of course, Monday to Thursday. We all know that show very well. Piers Morgan, a journalist with fiery debates and very strong opinions as well on a lot of stuff. You might know what happened on Good Morning Britain a couple of years ago, where he walked off set famously after an exchange with Alex Beresford on the Oprah Winfrey interview. But now he is back in America again. He was back in America again, interviewing Republican presidential candidate nominee Ron DeSantis in America, which I have to say, I've not watched the interview. I'm not going to give my view on the show. Now, this is a very interesting interview because Donald Trump over the last few days has come out and criticising the Florida governor's record on a lot of stuff, COVID and other stuff as well. The nickname Ron DeScaramonius has certainly been in the United States press over the last few days. I mean, Zach, what did you make to that interview?
It was he doesn't seem phased one little bit of it, from the interview that I watched and I saw as well. He didn't seem scared one little bit. I mean, he's sort of one of these people that sort of, I'll attack back if I need to. But if I get attacked, then, by my opponents, then I'm just used to it by now. And yeah, to be fair, he is probably used to it. I mean, he won the 60-40 in Florida, despite the fact he'd been viciously, obviously criticised a lot of the stuff that he's done, and probably rightly so for some of it, I must say. But he's managed to make a successful performer. He's basically Trump without the Trump. So he's Trump policies, but with a little bit less, with a bit more normality. Now, from the bits I saw, one of the criticisms that he has developed over the last few days, and he still had a bit of a U-turn in this interview as well. He said that the Russia-Ukraine war was a territorial issue, and the US shouldn't really get much involved with it. Now he's called Vladimir Putin a war criminal, and then in the Newsmax interview the other day, he sort of slagged off the war and everything like that in terms of US involvement. So he's in a bit of a pickle at the moment, I'm afraid. And, he called the context that he made about it being territorial, which is out of context, or mischaracterized. But I do wonder, watching the interview, whether there is sort of a point where he's starting to making mistakes. He's been attacked by Trump multiple times. It looks like as well that, it might be sticking for Trump, these attacks, despite the fact that he's about to probably get indicted in a few days and all that sort of thing as well. And yeah, I think my question obviously for him is whether he would win a Republican ticket, or in terms of presidency, on cultural issues. I mean, no, he's been praised for all this cultural stuff that he's been doing as well. Obviously, he's boasted about freedom a lot of times, but he's talked a lot more about it. The fact that he liked the nickname Scantimonious, as well, Meatball Ron, as well. And he's talking about a lot of his family upbringing, his background, obviously his wife as well, who's very unfortunately suffered cancer over the last few years and recovered from that, thankfully, as well. But yeah, he looks like, to some Republicans that I know push the donors a little bit, like the Republican donors who've sort of pushed their way out of things a little bit as well. I do wonder whether, they obviously moved their donations to DeSantis, but will their money be worth it in a day? Republican voters are still with Donald Trump. I know DeSantis will, you know, criticize some of the methods, the ways that Trump did government in the interview, like he would have done COVID a little differently. And I mean, he did shut down the state first for a little while, and then open it up very quickly as well. And he just wants. I think what he's saying is Trump without the craziness. Well, I think he is a bit of a crazy dude sometimes, but he's I don't know. He's toned down everything a little bit as well. He also got criticised as well for the reference he made about the Stormy Daniels case as well. So obviously, the Manhattan DA is investigating Donald Trump as well. He sort of hinted, he sort of casually criticised Trump, saying, I don't know stuff about a porn star paying hush money to porn star, la la la, which he got criticised for, must say, quite a lot. And he followed up in a press conference today. He followed up on that in his interviews with Piers Morgan. Now he clearly is getting all the attention worldwide at the moment, but whether he would, like I said, win the presidential race would be interesting to see as well. I struggle to think. It depends. I mean, moderate Republicans are independents may lean to him a little bit more, and if it was him in a sort of Biden match. But I don't know. I mean, if he doesn't get the nomination, is Trump? Will DeSantis sort of brush aside his chance a little bit in the moment as well? Donald Trump is still very popular. He's doing his first rally tonight in Texas, 2024 campaign rally. He called it Waco, Texas, or something like that. I don't know what about the irony about doing it at a place called Waco. Maybe because he is one, or maybe because the set place name sounds interesting. But in many ways, it's all this DeSantis Trump stuff is going to kick off I think, probably a nasty campaign for the Republican primary and a nomination, whilst Democrats are going to be all united around Joe Biden potentially once he announces his 2024 run. I don't know, maybe the next couple of months, but yeah, I mean, certainly from the DeSantis Piers Morgan interview, he very much suggested that he could beat Joe Biden on a national stage, and I know it will be interesting to see what he does, and whether he could beat him or not. I don't know. Maybe he could, but I think it'll be difficult this stage with the Trump base.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I can say from my own hand, I think this is going to be one of the closest races for a Republican nomination in a long time. I don't know. I mean, again, as I said, I'm going to stand partial. Leave my view on that. But please comment down below, guys, who you would love to see as the next Republican presidential candidate taking place in 2024. Obviously, there'll probably be another debate. It'll probably be fiery again. We'll let you guys know in the comments. Now, moving on now to the news from the UK. Now, this week, there will be a little clip, a little video being played in a bit, talking about the ULEZ zone, because I wanted to share with you some news from Parliament about that as well. One MP in particular talking about against Sadiq Khan's ULEZ expansion, which I will be doing on the show tonight. Now, the last couple of days, there has been complete and utter outrage over the Mayor of London's attempt to basically stick the ultra-low emission zone in parts of Orpington. Yes, you don't know where Orpington is. It is actually not that far away from London. I mean, goodness me, guys. We're talking about a town that is located in Bromley. Yes, Bromley area, Swanley, wherever you want to do. Basically, parts of Bromley could be facing an extra amount of cash. You're going to pay £12.50 just to drive into a zone with a car. You got to take your kids to school every day. Oh, you got to drive £12.50 to park in a ULEZ zone. £37, right now, nearly like what? £25 just to come out again. And then, apparently, or more money to park. It's going to be a complete and utter mess for this. Now, the Mayor of London this week has been facing a lot of questions. Not happy questions from the London Assembly, where he was grilled the other day. I have to say, Zach, and I'm going to ask you, Zach, this question. Obviously, you are a Labour supporter as well. I was going to ask you this question. Do you think Sadiq Khan has got himself stuck in a mousetrap over this?
Oh, I think he's received a lot of criticism for it, certainly. But whether that's, I mean, like, there's certainly criticism within London for it, like the ULEZ zone. I mean, he would say, like, I think from if you're looking at it from a green perspective, then if you're sort of one of these very pro-environment, sorts of campaigners, or just ordinary people who cares about the environment, then you look at it from a positive environmental perspective that adding the ULEZ zone would probably reduce emissions and all that sort of thing as well, which is crucial to keep clean air and all that sort of thing as well. But on the other hand, what you also to the Council's criticism for is the fact that it's during a sort of the time where inflation is still high, cost of living is still high, as well, and many people struggling, that they're introducing this charge, which I believe at the time is going to come into August, September time. This new expansion of the ULEZ zone. The criticism is it's just another cost for ordinary people who are struggling to feed their food and everything like that. As well. Now, I can imagine, like, most part of the ULEZ zone, there's probably a lot of wealthy people in these ULEZ zones, so they probably could afford it and everything like that. But there's also, I imagine, not every borough is pretty much got loads of money to be able to do stuff like that. So, from their perspective, as well, it's so costly that it makes it unaffordable. Yeah, I mean, most people probably, are in the ULEZ zone already, or probably, can pay, are ULEZ compliant, as well. If they got like suitable cars and emission or anything like that, then they can avoid the daily charge, as well. But whether they've got, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just the cost that's the problem for these families and all that sort of thing as well. In terms of being able to afford it, whether they may have an old car and they want to get a new car but they can't afford it, so it's costly to them and all that sort of thing as well. And they really want to change so that their car's ULEZ compliant. But £12.50 a day, £12 or so pounds a day doesn't sound much. If you're really affordable stuff like that. But when you're really struggling your income, it's a costly measure. I mean, like, some days it will cost, like, I don't know, I mean, like £400 a month just to travel every day to work and find your taxes and all that sort of thing. So whilst there's an environmentally sustainable perspective of that, and it's totally understandable why they would do that sort of thing, there's also the element as well, I should say, that it's also extremely costly, and from a lot of people's perspective, is going to cost them their jobs if they have to keep all the pain and all that sort of thing as well, because may even actually increase the chances of poverty and all that sort of thing as well. So it's a difficult one, I think, to balance on this, and I'm obviously really concerned for those who can't afford it. But there's it's difficult. I think there's a good purpose of introducing it, just because air pollution and air can kill people, and everyone wants to reduce pollution. There's also, at the same time, is it wise to introduce this now, at a point where it's people struggling? So I don't know really, and whether I don't know. Maybe it could be worthy to sort of delay it by 5-6 months or more potentially. Might be worth doing that, but I don't think they should get rid of it altogether. Personally, in my view, I think they should introduce it eventually. Maybe push it down the line a little bit probably would be helpful, in terms of actually sort of once we get inflation down and everyone starts purchasing again, then maybe introduce it then and everyone can start affording it. But yeah, I mean, it obviously doesn't help as well that we've had inflation. I mean, like, inflation's unexpectedly gone up within the last week as well. Interest rates gone up by another 25 basis points. So yeah, it sounds a bit, in terms of financial pain, quite costly. But on the environmental side, it's really good as well. So this is a really difficult balance, I think, for the man to sort of deal with.
Well, surveyors of almost 700,000 cars in London will not be the London ultra-low emission zone, which is the ULEZ, compliant when the scheme expands, according to new analysis. A new analysis is from the RAC. The RAC said the figures, which rises to more than 850,000 when including other non-compliant vehicles in addition to cars. However, though the London Mayor's office has declined the figures. Now, this is interesting. However, the Transport for London TfL claims that 9 out of 10 cars seen driving out of London on average the day meet the ULEZ zone. Despite repeated requests, the Mayor's office has confirmed it will not release at this time the full numerical data for non-ULEZ compliant vehicles that will be affected by the expansion. Aimed at improving air quality, the ULEZ scheme will be expanded to include outer London in August August the 29th. That's, by the way, towards the end of August. Well, this is what one Tory MP, Gareth Bacon, or particularly Gareth Bacon, of course, as a member of Parliament for Orpington, had to say on an interview with GB News about the proposed ULEZ extension plans for London. Have a listen to this if we can get the interview played for you right now. Let me see. Yeah, we're going to have a little clip here, guys. This is unfortunately, guys, we can't find it. So we're going to play for you this. We're going to play for you this video, and this is Gareth Bacon, MP, talking in a campaign video about Sadiq Khan's ULEZ zone. Have a listen to this.
A rural Kentish village on the very edge of Greater London. This is one of the places where Sadiq Khan wants to impose the ultra-low emission zone charge. As you can see, this is not central London. It simply does not have the same air quality problems. There's no tube station, nor any of the other public transport options that inner London enjoys. In fact, the nearest tube station is North Greenwich, which even on a good day would take at least half an hour to drive to. Like many places across the Orpington constituency and outer London, people here rely on their cars to get around. But Sadiq Khan wants to put cameras across outer London to catch people driving older cars in villages like this. The daily £12.50 charge will hit the poorest the hardest. But also NHS workers, social care workers, police officers, firefighters and teachers, many of whom live outside Greater London and have to travel in. ULEZ expansion will also hit our high streets, deterring customers and making it harder for businesses to recruit staff. If you rely on your car to get around every day, you could face an additional driving bill of more than £4,500 a year. That's extortionate, even before considering how high household bills have risen in recent months. Now, as your Member of Parliament, I'm doing all I can to stop ULEZ expansion, but I need your help. Bromley Council is amongst several London local authorities looking at legal routes to stop the expansion. And I'm pushing ministers to consider withholding funds from the Mayor as a last resort if he doesn't change course. But we need to demonstrate the scale of the opposition to stop ULEZ expansion. So I'm reopening my petition, which already has almost 12,000 signatures on it. If you oppose Sadiq Khan's highway robbery, please sign the petition now.
There we go. Thank you there, Gareth Bacon MP, for that little video there on the ultra-low emission zone. I have to say, I mean, first of all, okay, talking about putting cameras to catch drivers out, okay. Now, when you drive, okay, this I'm going to compare two cars here, okay. Two cars that I'm going to compare, okay, now. Imagine you are driving around in, I don't know, I'll give you a petrol car, for example. Say your car was a 2012 BMW 5 Series or something. That one. And maybe that was a petrol. And you had a diesel car, which was a Volkswagen Golf diesel or something. So they're from more than 10 years old, okay. For a start, you would have to pay £12.50. For thank goodness, for me, my Ford Fiesta is exempt because I have done all of my research online. That's the car I drive. And I'm sure, Zach, your VW up is probably the same as well, with in terms of that's what both we own. That's what the cars we both own, okay? Now, we'd have to drive these cars around. I certainly drive a lot of the time anyway. But I have to say, when you are driving into London, this is going to hurt the poorest in communities. I mean, goodness me, imagine you driving around and get caught by the police. Oh, because your car doesn't meet the ULEZ zone or you're going too fast in that. Well, I mean, the ULEZ zone, Zach, I just feel like when they spoke about these cameras, it seems like the mayor has just not thought this through at all, especially in places with like hardly any pollution, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of campaigners and all that sort of thing as well, but that sort of discuss this in many ways. Like as you mentioned, there'll be those, if you're in a car, like, that's really high emissions, all that sort of thing as well, then you'll be facing daily charges. And, £12 is a lot per day. Just, sort of getting in and out and everything like that to access the area. I mean, it's people's livings that we're talking about. But like, yeah, as you said, well, you could have a really old car that's low emissions, and you got like all these electric cars. People can afford electric. There'll be those who buy electric cars probably more well off in terms of money, everything like that. But if you want to look for cheap cars and everything like that, then it's quite difficult if you like low income and all that sort of thing as well. So, like I said as well, there's a balance to think about here, like in terms of environmental, as well, like environmental causes and all that sort of thing, like pollution, environment. It's all good to do doing that sort of thing. I think it's very important, but it's also the timing and the sort of the costs and everything as well. And the fact that we're going to cost of living crisis and everything. Yeah, it's a concern. I would personally delay it, in my opinion, but I would keep it for the future, but I just would delay, sort of slowly implement it as well. And also as well, I think there should be more of a gradual introduction as well. More, I think if you think about it, it's all being expanded through the whole London borough, which is considered London territory, not just like the inner workings of London, it's sort of the outer workings as well. It clashes on like the border of Surrey in many ways as well, and other areas. So yeah, I mean, it's I think it'll be, I just think it's, the timing is not great. I think the idea is good, but the timing is not great in terms of practical costs and everything.
It's going to be a pretty horrible event. I don't know. Please comment down below, guys, what you make to Sadiq Khan's crazy old Austin Allegro posturing Viewless expansion. Yeah, that's how horrible an Austin Allegro was back in the 1970s and 80s. So, yeah, certainly an Austin Allegro in my own watch. But moving on now, we're just going to touch on one bonus story, because I know a lot of people have been seeing France at the moment. Emmanuel Macron, Zach, facing a huge rebellion with riots and arson attacks happening in Paris right now.
Yeah, absolutely. What this is all about is that the fact Emmanuel Macron is going to raise the pension age from return to retirement and forget your pension from 62 to 64. Now, what's controversial about this is the idea itself, the fact that people are going to have to go 2 more years before they can claim their pension and retire, basically. So those who are, leaving younger are having to work old and all that sort of thing as well. But what's also controversial about this is not only is the actual law itself, but the way it's been pushed through. Now, there's been sort of cracks in terms of support, of how much support this gets. I mean, the parliamentary system in France, in a way, is sort of like our US system, where the other parties that are not Emmanuel Macron's party control the chambers, basically, in terms of legislative chamber. So, I mean, the fact that Emmanuel Macron's party does not have a majority and has to go into a sort of like a minority coalition sort of deal with the others, it obviously doesn't help for him, because it means he doesn't have a majority to get through everything through once in the chambers. Now, despite that, although there's been widespread, voting against this idea of this pension legislation from 62 to 64, Emmanuel Macron has special powers that he can use to force the legislation through. He has used powers on this pension legislation to push, and therefore he's pushed through this new pension law that increases the age from 60 to 64 without a parliamentary vote at all. So because he wanted to wait to see how that goes, he's fed up waiting, so he's decided to increase the age, decided to put it through without parliamentary vote is now in force. Now, it's not gone down well with the public, you must say as well, this law and the process itself. And people have been taking to streets and protesting. Some of it has been not very peaceful at all, quite rioting, looting, anarchists basically on on the streets, organised by trade unions in many ways as well, I should say, as well, these protests. Now, these protests have been continuing to the point where the king that was supposed to visit France next week, he's had to postpone his trip because these protests they make the king's, visit unsafe. That's quite extraordinary. It's right. The king can't even visit France because of ongoing protests between its people and the government. So yeah, it's costly in terms of actual, people, protesting, but also in terms of it from the royal family as well. I don't know what the protesters were planning or something like that as well, but the trade unions have organised new protests for next week as well. I should point out, they're very much opposed to the pension age being raised as well, the retirement age from 62 to 64, and yet deep political divisions at the moment within France with this pension age. I can understand the complaints about it. Another 2 years, another set of hard work that has to be done for these people, and I can totally understand why this is very controversial because there's another cost to the elderly, and those, it sort of, devalues the young a little bit because it's another 2 years that they're having to work and before they can claim their money and before they can retire, and yeah, it's a very costly for youngs as well. It's basically it's sort of a tax for the young in many ways as well.
I don't understand all this. It's just absolutely. Look, I get this is a joke. It's just crazy. But the riots I've seen over the last few days in France, in particular, we'll come on to the heroes and villains later in the week. I think there's no clear cut that I condemn all of these riots that have happened in Paris. Lots of people visit this place. It's one of the most visited cities in the world. You've got Disneyland Paris, probably not that far away from Paris itself. A big tourist attraction. I don't want to be seeing Paris like this. Please comment down below, guys, what you make to Emmanuel Macron. There have even been reports that Marine Le Pen, who is the far-right opposition leader, wants to table a notion of no confidence in the government. So it's getting to the point where even the opposition parties in France are beginning to turn on Emmanuel Macron. Moving on now to the sports news now. Now, we're going to be talking about the recent Formula E race today, which took place in Sao Paulo. For a start, I didn't even know this race was on until today. Thankfully, I have watched the race and I can confirm it was an absolute thriller in Brazil. Lots of safety cars, by the way. I joined the race about 4 laps in. There was a huge crash at the start of the race, which Sebastian Buemi got involved in. And, of course, saw a retirement for Norman Nato as well. Plenty of drama throughout the race. But, of course, it was Mitch Evans taking a crucial victory today for Jaguar. I have to say, well done to Mitch Evans. This was a very, very just a great victory for the Jaguar driver. A very close match, closely followed by Nick Cassidy, who had a very good drive today, finishing in second. Sam Bird was third for Jaguar, the second of the Jaguars. Antonio Felix Acosta continued his decent run with a 4th place finish. Jean-Eric Vergne was 5th in the first with DS Penske. Second one was Stoffel Van Dorn finishing in 6th. Pascal Wehrlein third on 7th for Porsche. 8th was Jake Hughes, and Rene Rast was 9th in the second McLaren. And Sebastian Buemi, who had that little skirmish on the opening lap, had some contact, finishing in 10th position. Zach, what did you make to that quite chaotic Formula E race in Sao Paulo?
I tell you what, it certainly was chaotic. It was certainly a lot of fun, and it was an Aussie one too. For in terms of the race results, Mitch Evans, crucial victory. This is number 7, I think, of his career that he managed to get as well, and it was a really very crucial victory as well. And I have to say, it was a very good race. Overall, chaotic finish. Top 3 separated by 0.5 of a second. Nick Cassidy nearly tried it on the end of Mitch Evans on the very last lap of the race. Had an opportunity, just missed that opportunity with 2 corners to go towards the end. And yeah, it was very unlucky for Nick Cassidy, who drove quite well as well. Must say, give a credit to Sam Bird, probably my driver of the race for him as well. Started in 10th position as well. but managed to waste his way through the field. Now, I think he did well towards the end, actually, because he had 2% more power than Cassidy and Evans towards the end in terms of battery. And he really, why unfortunately didn't win, and unfortunately the gamble was to actually sort of back off and see whether whether he would have enough power, whether they would run out of power at the front, didn't work. He put himself in a position where he could have won that race if Evans and Cassidy were fighting so much to the point where they run out of battery. And would have had to slow down. So yeah, the fact is Cassidy I think got ahead at some point as well, and realised he was running out of battery, so had to give it back to Mitch Evans. So yeah, it was a very chaotic finish, and obviously Sam Berg got the fastest lap as well, which was also crucial in terms of points as well. But yeah, 1-2, 1-3 for Jaguar. Very good end of the race as well. Let's talk about the others as well. Antonio Felix Costa fourth. Bit of a slick fish through. Giant Glenn fifth, went from seventh. Stoffel Van Dorn, an unlucky event for him as well. He started out quite well, I think, as well. Managed to hold up to the lead, and then just got caught up with all the safety cars, and then a few overtakes as well from the others. And yeah, he finished sixth position after starting pole. Pascal Wehrlein, another great race through the field as well. 18th position. He really struggled qualifying. But then went from 18th to 7th. Great result for him. Jake Hughes was 8th. Rennie Ras 9th. Buemi 10th. Gunter was 11th as well. Andrew Lotter managed to get through quite well as well. 12th. Lucas Degrassi 13th. Ron Melt 14th. Oliver Owen 15th. 36th. Captain 16th. Dan Tictum struggled towards the end and got, unfortunately. And then there's DNS for Jake Dennis, who unfortunately,
Yeah, Dan Tictum hit Jake Dennis, unfortunately. That's why Jake Dennis ended up retiring. And Pascal Wehrlein did get a little bit of a hit as well, but thankfully carried on without major damage.
No, yeah, and then you had Norman Natter, who was involved in that first lap accident. Nico Muller got caught up as well.
Sasha
Fenestrasko as well, also DNF with a problem, and then Warren Mortara as well, caught up in all the drama as well. He finished. It did not finish the race as well. Very unlucky for him, and a very unfortunate result as well, which is very unlucky as well. But in terms of what happens in terms of the Drivers' Championship, Wehrlein is now 24 ahead of Jake Dennis. I mean, Jake Dennis's DNF was very costly as well. I mean, it's another 6 points for Wehrlein. Meant that gap went from 18 to 24 as well. And now Nick Cassidy and Giant Ver are breathing down. And even to the point, I should say, and Felix Costa are breathing down Jake Dennis's neck in terms of like that as well. This is going to be a very costly result for Jake Dennis if it doesn't improve in Germany as well. But Pascal Wehrlein is getting in the finishes and getting inconsistent top 10 finishes, which is extending his points lead. Now, he needs to obviously have a better qualifying in the next couple of races, because otherwise the likes of Nick Cassidy could start to quietly make their way through the field as well, which is really important. But next up is Germany. It's going to be Berlin, and it will be a double header. And we're on a little bit of a break now, by the way. We're on another month break, but there'll be Germany. We're back in Germany, 22nd and 23rd April. 2 races as well in Berlin. That once decided the championship is now in the middle of the season, but it's on that. Will be on that the airfield as well. A very wide, fast, twisty track. Lots of possibilities there as well for round 7 and 8 of the championship as well.
Plenty of action for Formula E coming up there in Berlin. Moving on now to the NASCAR race, which took place. Of course, you can watch more of the motorsport news action on the Full Throttle with Charlie Motorsport Weekly. Episode 2 has been uploaded for that. But we're going to go over the results there for the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500, which saw the reigning champion Joey Logano winning that race. As I said, I actually didn't watch much of this race, but I'll go through the results now. Brad Keselowski was second, number 6 Ford, Christopher Bell third, Corey LaJoie fourth, Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Ed Jones, Ty Gibbs, and Carl Busch completing the top 10. Zach, what did you make to this NASCAR race?
Yeah, very interesting as well. I mean, it was an interesting finish towards the end as well, quite chaotic as well. I mean, in terms of finishing as well. But yeah, Logano was the one that managed to squeeze out in front and managed to get through towards the end as well. Get ahead of Brad Keselowski, most importantly as well. A crucial 59 points for Logano, I must say as well. Very, very good for him. But yeah, ahead of Keselowski, ahead of Christopher Bell. Corey LaJoy 4th. Very good result for Corey LaJoy. Tyler Reddick was 5th as well. Denny Hamlin was 6th. Blaney was 7th. Eric Jones 8th. Ty Gibb 9th. And Kyle Busch in 10th. I mean, yeah, it was a pretty... it got quite fun towards the end, I must say. But it kept it quite fun. Like we say, obviously really important as well to, get clean racing. I mean, there was a few cautions throughout that as well. But yeah, I mean, it was a good race. Logano managed to eke it out towards the end as well, and just managed to stay out in front. Really importantly, going on to the last couple of laps, it was really good as well for him. This weekend as well, as you probably know, it's the first road course race of the season. It's the Circuit Americas. There are a few interesting faces, you probably know, in the field this weekend. We've got Jenson Button in the field this weekend, driving the number 9. And then we've got Kimi Raikkonen as well, that's back in off for this weekend as well. Good to see him back. So 2 F1 drivers in the field, and that starts at 8:30 tomorrow, UK time as well. William Byron is the one that set the pole position as well, ahead of Tyler Reddick and Austin Cindric. And then we had Jordan Taylor, in 4th position. A very good result for Jordan Taylor as well. An excellent qualifying for him. As well, Daniel Suarez was 5th. Alex Bowman was 6th. AJ Allmendinger was 7th. Eric Jones is 8th. Kyle Busch is 9th. And Noah Gragson was 10th position. And in terms of the others, let me just go through the others actually as well. In terms of where others got involved as well. Let me see who got Jenson Button 24th, Kimi Raikkonen 22nd in terms of where I want to know sort of where the F1 drivers sort of done on that one as well. They are 22nd and 24th as well. The Xfinity Series race is ongoing as well. It's just gone that 12. AJ Allmendinger is the leader as well, ahead of Sam Creed. Parker Kuhlman is 3rd. Renus Harvest is 4th. Tiger is 5th. Brandon Jones 6th. William Byron 7th. Justin Allgate 8th. Sammy Thief is 9th. Sam Mayer is 10th position. And in the Craftsman's Truck Series, I know it says Camping World Trucks. It still says that, by the way, on Google. I don't know why they haven't updated it. But it was Zane Smith that won the race ahead of Kyle Busch. Ty Maggette was 3rd as well. And it was Tyler Aikman was 4th position as well in that race as well. Ross Chastain was 5th. Cody Hine was 6th, as well as Sanchez 7th, Tyler Graves 8th, Garland at 9th, Ben Rhodes was 10th position. A very eventful race. I mean, road courses are very eventful, especially the COTA as well. Very, very eventful race as well. So tomorrow is the Cup Series race. Tomorrow is at 8:30 UK time. The clock will go forward actually now tomorrow. So it's not 7:30, it's 8:30 tomorrow. The races start as well. And next weekend will be in Richmond as well. Richmond will host the Toyota Owners 400 as well. That'll be at Richmond. It'll be the Xfinity Series will be there next week as well. And the Cup Series will be off next week. The Truck Series will be off next weekend as well before going back to Texas. Actually, it's on next weekend, I think it is. Are they on? Are they back next weekend? I can't remember. Are they?
And we can confirm. We can confirm.
Yeah, they're back next weekend. Yeah, the Truck Series is actually in Texas next weekend rather than Richmond. Yeah. But the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series are in Richmond. So a little bit of a different running schedule there. But yeah, there will be all 3 series are in action, but except the Truck Series will be in Texas. The Cup and the Xfinity Series will be in, Richmond. You've got it then. But yeah, that'll be nice to come action next week.
That's all for the motorsport now. It's time for the football action, which was all, international results.
Internationals.
We beat Italy the other day. I can safely say it wasn't coming to Rome, if you were asking me. I think it was someone called Panucci scoring the winner in that match. as well. It isn't Premier League week. It is, of course, the European Championship qualifiers. England play Ukraine tomorrow, which will be a very, very interesting. I'm trying to get the results up now. Here we go. So we've got all the latest scores for the European football, which we're just going to get up for you now. Quite a lot of matches to round up today in this as well. Let's go through the results whilst we are here. Does not seem like... no, it doesn't seem like there was any results, interestingly. Unfortunately, my laptop is down. It is unfortunately.
I'll sort of tell you what's happening in Wales. So,
Zach's going to give you a rundown of the football results.
Let me just go through some of the key Euro qualifier results. Actually, to be fair, that have happened over the last few days, because obviously it's very important to go in context of this as well. So we're on the international break this weekend. For Premier League clubs, so it's international weekend. So we start off in the Euro qualifiers. Our first two rounds are this week, so of 10 as well. And I'll give you some crucial results actually. So let's talk about the home nations. Northern Ireland 2-0 victory over San Marino as well on the Thursday. It was Dion Childs that managed to score both goals in the 24th and 56 minutes as well. Great match, I have to say. Northern Ireland completely dominant in that match against San Marino. A good start for them. As well, we saw the likes of Portugal in action. Cristiano Ronaldo 4-0 against Liechtenstein as well. Ronaldo got 2 goals in that, 51st and 63rd minutes. Bernardo Silva for Man City and Joe Cancelo were the other goal scorers as well in that one on Thursday. We played Friday against Italy. It was a 2-1 victory for England. It was a very tough match, I have to say. Well, there was a bit of a red card for Luke Shaw in the 80th minute, so he will not take place tomorrow as well. Reece James has also pulled out as well of the squad, I should say, as well, due to injury. But yeah, it was a 2-1 victory for England. Declan Rice in the 13th minute, and then Harry Kane got a penalty and managed to become England's all-time scorer for England as well, which was brilliant. Great job by him. He's the all-time scorer now. For the England football men's team is brilliant just to see in terms of, well, and all competitions, absolutely fantastic as well. But yeah, I mean, the Matteo Ruidigi was the 56-minute goal from there as well. We've also had matches today as well. I mean, there's other matches I have to go through as well that's important. France beats the Netherlands 4-0. Big, a massive win there for France as well. Belgium got victory yesterday as well. The other match also...
Oh, we've lost.
As well for
sorry.
You're right, Charlie.
Sorry, guys. We're having my colleague Zach, my friend Zach, is having some issues at the moment. Oh, we're back now.
All right. Can you hear me, right, Charlie?
We're all fine, Zach. Sorry about the technical glitch there.
Yeah, sorry about that. Nick Slaveni was one that got red carded against as well. So it's 3-0 victory for Scotland. Big win for them as well. Good start for them as well. And the other match, I think, as well, that's just wrapped up. The other home nation as well, Croatia and Wales. That has just concluded to a 1-1 draw. So I think it's a right result for Wales. They managed to get a 93rd minute goal that made them draw. I have to say as well, that's a crucial goal for Wales as well. I think they probably could have won their 1-0 loss, but managed to score 1-1. Round 2 of the qualifiers start tomorrow. England will be taking on Ukraine. As well at home as well. Northern Ireland will be taking on Finland as well. That's at 7:45, and then there's matches as well on Tuesday. The matches there are Scotland v Spain. That'll be one of the key matches in that one. Ireland take on France, and Wales take on Latvia as well. That'll be on next as well. Premier League returns Saturday. Big one: Man City, Liverpool. The running begins. 10 rounds to go in the season. Man City and Liverpool will be the key match that day as well. Man City, that's at 12:30. Chelsea, Everton from 5:30 as well. Arsenal will take on Leeds as well. That'll be the other key match as well. And then Newcastle, Man United as well on the Sunday, Monday as well, but that'll be next week. So yeah, crucial some matches, international matches ahead tomorrow and the next couple of days, and the Premier League returns next weekend as well.
Plenty of news from the football there. Thank you, Zach, for rounding that all up. Right now it's time for something slightly different. Charlie's good news today is going to be essentially a conversation corner style segment, because we have had a very tight show, but I'm going to do a little history back on music again now, to all you fans out there who love great musical hits. What was today's choice, young or old? We're going to go for something today that I think a lot of you guys will love listening to. Of course, I want to be talking all about someone who I'm a big fan of. Obviously, a lot of you guys will have spoke about this. I'm going to talk a lot today about Queen. Yes, Freddie Mercury, the lead singer of Queen. This is a part of the episode where I'm going to talk about Queen this week. Now, Queen are probably a rock band I know a lot about. 1970 first formed. Obviously, Smile, Brian May, Roger Taylor back then. Of course, they did form in 1973, where their debut song, Keep Yourself Alive, was released. They also then went on to have multiple success around the world. Of course, there was multiple albums that were being released, but by the rock band as well. One Vision, all that kind of stuff. Another popular song, formed in London, of course, at the time. And in terms of that, they have sold more than 250 to 300 million records. It's one of the most best-selling musical artists of all time, I have to say. I think we can all say Queen are certainly one of the most successful rock bands to ever grace, and Freddie Mercury's vocals certainly some of the greatest you'd ever hear. In fact, as well, so much so, Bohemian Rhapsody with Rami Malek got their start just a few years ago, and that also, I believe, won an Oscar as well in that one. But yes, we've got all the songs here, Queen and Queen 2 albums, debut albums, Keep Yourself Alive on there as well. Then we had Queen 2, Sheer Heart Attack saw the release of Killer Queen, which was a huge hit as well. And then, of course, the most famous album, I have to say, featured A Night at the Opera, which featured the one of the most best-selling songs ever, Bohemian Rhapsody, that was released in 1975, 1976 release. Bohemian Rhapsody, surely one of the fastest-grossing songs of all time, named after the film. You're My Best Friend also released, and so many songs then followed. Zach, to be honest with you, Queen have a huge legacy in the music world as probably one of the most successful rock bands to come out of the UK, and if not the world, quite frankly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was all. I mean, Queen is represented still today in the modern era. I mean, like, although it's without Freddie Mercury, it's Adam Lambert that sort of represented them. As well on tours and all that sort of thing. They're still going really strong. You can see them all. You saw them at the the Platinum Jubilee celebrations as well. But yeah, I mean, they're going very strong, even without them making original songs, all that sort of thing as well. But you can, there's so much and everything like that. Freddie Mercury, was the man of the moment, really, as well. It contains stuff like We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions, Bohemian Rhapsody, as well, Number One Bite the Stars. There's just so many famous sort of songs that they made as well. It's just incredible. I mean, there were big hits throughout the 70s and 80s as well. I think in one point as well they did a sequel. They did. I think they did one with George Michael at one point as well. I think Queen.
Yeah.
In many ways, if I remember like that. This is like Freddie Mercury's like sort of like years and everything like that they sort of starting to sort of peak in anyways as well. But it was, they had so many popular hits like We Will Rock, Don't Stop Me Out, Bohemian Rhapsody, Radio Gaga as well. I mean, it's just so many good songs in many ways as well. Now, as I said as well, Adam Lambert's now sort of like the part of the band as well, just covering his songs, their songs on tour and anything like that. But they still got Brian May, who's been well, Roger Taylor as well. I mean, you have Adam Lambert as well that's still doing all the stuff as well, but in many ways well. But look at that, so many albums like Queen, Queen 2, Sheer Heart Attack, News of the World, Jazz Again. There's so many albums that made them famed in many ways, and so many concert tours as well. They're still going. They've recently completed the Rhapsody tour as well, and many other tours around Lambert. It's just an incredible legacy and incredible heritage that this band holds anyway as well. That makes them with the young and old.
Yeah, certainly Queen will be one of these greatest rock bands that graced the world. But one of the most famous moments came at 1985, where Queen performed a 20-minute set at Live Aid, where I was listening to a video from Mark Martell. Freddie didn't feel 100% that day, but probably had one of the loudest vocals ever on the stage singing We Are the Champions during that performance. And that went down in the music world as one of the greatest moments ever in the history of rock music, and particularly music without vocal, and that concert as well, raising so much money as well. But one of the things that obviously a lot of Queen fans will know is the decline of Freddie over the later years. Obviously, like, you go from him making Bohemian Rhapsody, Don't Stop Me Now from the album Jazz, to later down the line when you get to the video of, I have to say, when I was watching the final album Innuendo being made, I saw the song called These Are the Days of Our Lives. And if you see Freddie in that song, he does look gravely unwell. Face starts discolouring because, unfortunately, a few years prior, despite having quite a successful solo career with songs like Time Waits for No One and Barcelona as well, I mean, Zach, later down the line, his health did start deteriorating as he contracted AIDS.
Yeah, unfortunately it did. Very sadly, as well. He sort of started suffering from AIDS as well, and it was really unfortunate. He kept his condition quite private. He's diagnosed with AIDS as well. He released 2 albums under as well. And after his 23rd of November, he publicly revealed that he had AIDS, and the next day he died after from bronchopneumonia as well. It's a sort of a subtype of pneumonia as well. It's a complication of AIDS. And then they released one more post-mortem album featuring his his vocals and everything like that as well. It was just a heartbreaking way to end as well. He wanted to keep it private, understandably so, because it's not. I can imagine the time if you had AIDS, you get quite sort of backlash throughout that. Those sort of days, people less accepting of gay people then as well, being as well. So it was obviously very heartbreaking to see that he couldn't reveal all that information at the time. But yeah, he's just so incredible. The legacy of the band and everything like that, he still remains to be seen then and now.
Yeah, it's a shame, but as I said, the whole world watched Bohemian Rhapsody and Rami Malek's recreation of it, and I think we can certainly praise Rami Malek for what he done during that film to make the just essentially make the set look so authentic, and that is exactly what he done, and I praise Rami Malek for that as well. Please comment down below, guys, whether you've seen Bohemian Rhapsody and what your favourite scene is in the film. I'd love to let you know in the comments regarding that. This is the Charlie Tolhurst Show live on YouTube. It's now time for a look at the one and only press preview. Yes, this is where we round up all the latest newspaper headlines. And oh boy, yes, I've used a very famous Buddy Holly line there. Oh boy, of course.
Oh boy,
because there is plenty of headlines to come through right now. And yes, let's go into the newspaper headlines today for tomorrow. Just let you know the clocks do go forward at 1 o'clock. UK time tomorrow. It's British summer time, of course. The Sunday Times goes for strip searches of children as young as 8. Shocking findings for report into police. Keep me awake, says Children Commissioner. Well, that wasn't good. And Vladimir Putin says, I'll put nuclear weapons in Belarus. God, don't tell me Belarus is joining the conflict. The Sunday Telegraph goes for European judges may be overruled on Rwanda deportations. The Mirror goes for a Glitterball exclusive for Shirley. I may never go back to Strictly. Judge hit all-time low over vile trolling. She hasn't signed for another series. The Sunday People goes, it's back. I'm a Celebrity All-Stars returns following the announcement on Anton Deck Saturday Night Takeaway. And Kate Cop, I fear another Cousins, comes as the ex-royal officer on toxic culture in the net. Funnily enough, we have two, the weekend front page, the Mail on Sunday has two papers for some reason, being printed off. Rishi, I will let victims say how to punish yobs. Prime Minister's blitz on antisocial behaviour. We'll see shamed bugs wearing jumpsuits as they clean up streets they blighted. The Observer goes, oh, here we go. This is an interesting picture. Top Tory MPs asked for £10,000 a day to work for a fake company. Quarteg Hancock, I can't even read that. Duped by campaigners. Video released of talks over pay rises. Oh, God, cringe Matt Hancock in a video. Oh my God, footage of Matt Hancock. Well, I thought he was meant to be not an MP anymore. Well, it turns out he's still MP. Part of the government, and certainly part of the Conservative Party. Sunday Express, Rishi crime blitz to woo Red Wall. Prime Minister gets tough as his popularity soars. And finally, the Daily Star Sunday goes, with your friends and neighbours may really be aliens. There's a guy works down the chip shop, swears he's ET. I wonder why that paper certainly will be sparring up some media attention. Zach, what do you make to the latest newspaper headlines?
Oh, crikey. I have to say as well, a lot to talk about. Start of the Sunday Times, strip search of children as young as 8. Good grief, I have to say. I must say, first of all, young as 8. I mean, that's awful. Children are routinely being stripped and stopped and strip searched by police, according to a report that expected to expose officers' wide spread abuse of powers. Around 3,000 youths have been targeted in England and Wales in the past 4 years, and the quarter were again between 10 and 15. Now, I'm pretty sure the law suggests that you can only be arrested, or you only can face criminal arrests when you start at 10, not 8. Strip search as young as 8 is child abuse, basically, for me. It's just not the way to be, doing this sort of thing at this sort of age. It's not the way to be doing it, and it's not unfair on the child. It's unfair for the adults, and it's just not a way. Like strip searching children as 8. I mean, we've had this week, another week, Ross and Casey report of the Metropolitan Police with their misogyny, racism, homophobia, institutional stuff like that. But I mean, like shocking findings like all that. Oh well, I mean, like it's just really, really bad that the police can be a state like this as well, and it's just really bad. It's awful. It's shameful, and it puts shame to the police's name. The ones that are supposed to protect us are the ones that are doing wrong practices and awful things as well. I mean, it's really crazy. The Sunday Telegraph: European judges may be overruled on Rwanda deportations. Yes, this is the illegal immigration bill that's due to be back to government soon. Lots of Tory MPs are putting down amendments that would sort of ignore ECHR rulings. Other moderate Tory MPs are putting down amendments as well to sort of strengthen slavery, the modern slavery and everything like that as well. And in any ways and that as well. But this is the one that leads Telegraph, and understandably so. European judges may be overruled on Rwanda deportation as well. So whatever could ban European Court of Human Rights from grounding migrant deportation flights in a deal to get Tory rebels on board. Up to 60 Tory MPs have put their name down on an amendment who are trying to strip Strasbourg of the right to interfere with Britain's immigration policy. Ministers may agree to block the use of mechanism used to ground the first flight in Rwanda, meaning that migrants who arrive in the UK legally could be deported if they challenge the government under human rights laws. It makes me wonder why we're in the ECHR then, and what the purpose of the ECHR is on that as well. Because if we're just going to selectively ignore ECHR rulings, then what's the point of being part of it as well? So yeah, I think it's the government are really riding dangerously close to law here as well. I mean, I'm not. If this goes ahead, I can imagine some sort of legal challenge could take part in that as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if at least some lawyers launch legal change as well. But yeah, I mean, this is Suella Braverman really doing testing the limits of the law in many ways as well. I mean, it is obviously the case of the right, the very anti-immigration part of the Conservative Party as well. Sunday Mirror runs the fact with Shirley Bass. You may remember her. She's a judge on sorry, not I'm a Celebrity. I will talk about that in a moment. She's a judge on Strictly Come Dancing. At the moment, she has sort of done an interview suggesting that she may never go back to Strictly, not because she doesn't want to do it, but because she's received a lot of abuse from trollers as well, and idiots online and everything like that. So the BBC are trying to talk to her at the moment. She's trying to convince herself to get back on there, but she's not signed a deal yet to remain as a judge. And it would be a really big shame if her career is ended because of this as well. I mean, this is leading the Mirror as well. So yeah, I mean, she's good. She's done well, and she's a good judge and everything like that. And she's sort of the judge that they sort of, need and adapt to in many ways as well. So she gets unnecessary abuse, and it's shameful to see that as well. The Sunday People, Kate Kopp, I feel another cousins, a former Met officer who won awards and called royalty fears more killers like Wayne Couzens and the Shane Force. As well, Hickey Harman's 46 claimed evil men still in the ranks are hidden behind a sinister wall of silence and a culture that could let them get away with murder. Yeah, he's not the officer. He's not wrong there. This is obviously the cult that bodyguards Kate Middleton. I should point out, although hence why you see Kate on the front page there. But yeah, the culture in the police really does need to change after that Casey report came out as well. It just was the shocking, horrible nature of the Metropolitan Police, which is a right state, needs to be dismantled and rebuilt again because it is a nasty, nasty, nasty mess that needs to be dealt with. We've seen too many instances of people that shouldn't even be in the police being part of the police. I mean, some of the stuff that we heard from the report was downright gruesome and just nasty. And some of it we shouldn't even go to because, quite frankly, it's so horrible and quite frankly shameful. The Mail was splashed it now. For some reason, we've got two Mail pages. They're the same pages, but we'll just cover them both anyway. Rishi Sunak is doing a bit of a crime week this week, not because he's been fined twice by the police before, but because he wants to announce new measures. He's going to announce measures such as those being by anti-social pay will have a say in the culprits are punished. He's also said as well, we'll see thugs wearing jumpsuits as they cleaned up streets they blighted, such as punishments and graffiti. As well, it will also give victims and social residents a say on what punishments are meted out, such as placing vandals in jumpsuit or publicly repairs, stuff like that as well. This is obviously crime is a big issue in Red Wall. This is obviously pleased Red Wall colleagues as well. I don't know about some of it as well. I mean, this could have all been done ages ago. I mean, this is sort of like trying to clear up the reputation of police and all that sort of thing as well, in many ways. But it's just it just feels a bit late. It feels too little, too late in many ways. So the policing crime has gone up, rape punishments have gone down, even though there's been more rapes as well. Being all highlighted, it's all feels a little too late in terms of what I think as well. And they've also got the Mail's got Palace facing another tell-all memoir by Andrew. I mean, if you can't keep Andrew out the nails, I mean, bloody Harry and Meghan going along in many instances, and now we've got Andrew who seems to can't keep his gob shut as well. I mean, he's a liability in its own self in many ways as well. We all see, the Pizza Express in Woking and obviously the stuff he did with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, yeah. The Observer is an interesting one. I really want to go on for this talk about this front page as well. Two top Tory MPs asked £10,000 a day to work for a fake company. Now, the project group led by Donkeys, I should point out that's the actual name of the group, have worked on this one. They agreed to work. The former Chancellor
quasi-quarantine Matt Hancock agreed to work for £10,000 a day to further the interest of a South Korean firm that's not even real. There has been the campaign group led by Donkey set someone up to ask to get MPs access to MPs, and then they would go around lobbying and then for their services. The MPs would fall for it, and now they've realised that they have fallen for it. And quite frankly, Matt Hancock, Sir Graham Brady, Quarten, Stephen Hammond, been falling for this. It's all about the second jobs scandal. They that's all been asked and everything like that as well. But yeah, it's a hilarious, and total self-cited overlook by these MPs that are asking for so much money for representations for second jobs. That to the point where they don't even realize what they're signing up to. Fake ones as well. It's quite something. As well, quite extraordinary. There's you see Rishi Sunak as well. Crime blitz to Red Rule. We've obviously talked about that as well. This is obviously the crime things like new measures as well. But yeah, and then there's Daily Star. It's all going to be alien again. There's a guy works down the chip shop, swears he's ET. Your friends and neighbours may really be aliens. I haven't seen any aliens fly in my neighbourhood yet, Charlie. I don't know about you, but yeah, aliens are living along us after stealing human eggs to create ETs that look like us. I don't look like the. I honestly do not look like the one on the front page of the Daily Star. I must say that as well. If I look like that, I think something's physically wrong with me. In many ways as well. That's what UFO investigator says. So the bloke who works down the chip shop and swears his Elvis may be more than he seems. Well, if Elvis was reborn like that, then boy, there is an issue. It's almost like Kathy Bill coming back to EastEnders all over again, but just in an uglier form. My neighbour would not look like that, and I don't think would have a head look like that. And if we in the neighbourhood noticed that, then I think it'd be a little bit worried. But yeah, that's the front pages for tomorrow as well, and that's for the front pages for the 26th of March.
Yeah, there's just so much like to talk about. We can all say exactly how we feel about this. It's a pretty crazy headline, I have to say. I think we can all agree that it is very, very interesting. Now it's time to move on now and do the final part of the show where we talk about the heroes and villains of the week, because there is certainly a couple of villains I've got to nominate. But firstly, guys, I'm going to start off with, quite simply, a hero nomination now. And I have to say, I think this nomination certainly is very, very interesting. I think the hero nomination is going to be very, very interesting as well. But firstly, guys, I'm gonna quickly do my villains this week as well. Number one goes to Nelson PK. Believe it or not, Nelson PK gets a nomination as he's been fined nearly $1 million for racist and homophobic comments against Mercedes Formula One driver Lewis Hamilton. It was made using a homophobic slur in November of 2021. I have to say, I absolutely condemn comments like that made by Nelson PK, who I have to say, I think it's ridiculous what he's done, and I think he should feel the full force of the punishment he gets given. And another nomination also goes to the protests in France, the riots that are happening right now. I mean, what can I say? It's pretty crazy what's happening. Now it's time for the good news now. The heroes this week. And I've got one. I'm going to give it to this old gentleman. An older gentleman steals the dance floor with flawless Michael Jackson moves. Yes. The hero this week goes to this person here. I can safely say, if your name is, are you ready for this? Once my article does decide to load up, Of course.
We'll get you there.
His name is this. I can confirm to
Come
you
up
that
somehow.
this man here. Here we go. There he is. I don't know if this guy actually has a name, but we can confirm
Must have
this
some name.
gentleman here dancing to Michael Jackson. Yes, we can confirm that this gentleman who danced to Michael Jackson gets my British or the star this week. I have to say, look at this. Moonwalk moves to Twitter or social media. Honestly, doing this, it's quite weird, you know. I mean, look at this.
Wow.
Go on, mate. Show your dance moves off.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm going to give that a nomination as well. Unfortunately, we don't have a name for this gentleman. But this gentleman here performing Michael Jackson moves to Billie Jean gets my nomination there for the Star of the Week. Zach, what do you make to my latest nominations?
Oh, interesting. I like the gentleman.
That
Go
was
the
certainly my
90
hero
roll.
for
Doing
the
the mark. Certainly as well. Right, let me get my ones in first of all. The hero for me this week goes to Harry Kane for breaking the all-time England top scorer goal, last held by Wayne Rooney. He's now scored 54 goals after securing that penalty in the 44th minute as well, in the first half against Italy. As well, he said he got a phone call this week from Rishi Sunak just this week as well. 54 goals is such a huge achievement, especially to wear it in an England shirt. It's just he called it a magical moment that meant everything to him. And obviously as well, it came from penalty, so it's one of his best things that he could do as well. The Wayne Rooney, the last one that held the records, congratulated Harry Kane on becoming England's all-time leading scorer. I knew it wouldn't take long, but that was quick. Great man, unbelievable goal scorer, an England legend. As well. By the way, Kane was on the pitch when Rainey wrote that record, and following his footsteps is amazing as well. The villains of the week for me goes to likes of Matt Hancock, Kwasi Kwarteng, Stephen Hammond, any of the Tories that fell for that fake £10,000 a day second-hand job as well, for a company led by donkeys, who set up this fake company and managed to get access to likes of Matt Hancock, Kwasi Kwarteng, Stephen Hammond, Sir Graham Brady. It was an unbelievable prank what they did as well. But it's very serious because it just shows how tone deaf these MPs are in terms of looking for second jobs and asking for so much money in exchange. I mean, like, people on universal, that's probably the £10,000 a day is probably the average person that's on universal credit per year. I mean, it's just incredible that these MPs fell for it, and the fact they're doing it all in their parliamentary office as well. It all been recorded. It's just spectacular, and it's just so tone deaf and everything like that as well.
It's very crazy as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, like the Hancock, Kwasi Kwarteng, Graham Brady, Stephen Hammond, the Tories MPs who fell for, led by donkeys, have got my villains of the week, and Harry Kane's the hero.
I have to say one bonus nomination because I forgot to mention this. The winner of the Apprentice UK 2023 has now been confirmed. Marnie Swindles has won the series this year. Zach, what did you make to her performance throughout the series?
Yeah, I mean, she definitely impressed in the final for me personally as well. I mean, her presentation was good. She was very confident as well. I think she was interesting. I felt more in tune with her presentation as well and her product idea. And yeah, I think it's a good shout, and it's a risky investment, but I think it's a good investment as well. Congratulations, Marnie. I think a well-deserved winner. Yeah,
that is The Apprentice. Of course, I'm actually going to catch up with that show in the coming days, and I will be rewatching the final of that show. But that's all we got time for on the Charlie Tolhurst show tonight. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. It's been a great pleasure. We'll see you again next week for another edition of the Charlie Tolhurst show, live on YouTube. Take care, everyone, and good night.